All right, boys, let's overreact to the Eastern Conference. Is it fair to say that I'm still overreacting since we're like, I don't know, 12, 13 games in or whatever? I don't know. Also, I started this a couple days ago, so if I reference a team's last game and it was like 2 games ago, there's your reason. And we're going to start with my Boston Celtics. Yeah, they've been fantastic so far. Crazy enough, they probably just had their best win of the season against Philly, where Jalen and Porzingis didn't play, and it was Derek White running pick and roll after pick and roll in the fourth quarter. And Al Horford continued his reign of terrorizing the Sixers and Joel Embiid and all that. He doesn't get them every game, but when he does, it's a thing. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, look, Drew has been guarding basically anybody they want him to. He's had possessions on Joel Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns or Julius Randle, and that has allowed Porzingis, when he's in there with him, to be more of a help guy. You've also got Porzingis just in a regular drop defense. Of course, Drew is also on guards and all that. Drew is also quietly, maybe not quietly, I don't know. He's been a beast on the boards this year. And offensively, the fit of Porzingis has just been... When you look at their game against the Knicks, and it's just like... I mean, one of the early plays of the game, it's Tatum, Porzingis, pick and pop, and that's a 3 for Porzingis. It's a simple action, but when you have players this good, you can do it. Then it becomes like a Jalen Porzingis empty corner pick and roll, and then it's Jalen lobbing it to KP. And then they tried something similar later, and then the play kind of died, and Porzingis just had to create something out of nothing, and then he's finishing at the basket. Look, we all get it with these guys, where the biggest thing is just not falling into ISO, dribble the air out of the ball offense in clutch situations, which, if I may be a concerned Celtics fan for a second, because it's always going to be there, the one loss they had to the Wolves this year, we did see that ugly offense, and the big thing was I was losing my mind. They were just forgetting that Porzingis was there, and he was just like in the corner the whole time. And also, and I'm going to talk about Miami in this video, obviously, as long as the Miami Heat exist, I am going to be terrified of the playoffs. And you know what? We can go to Miami now. I don't know exactly where Bam would rank among the guys in the league right now, but it feels like he's been one of the 15 best players in the league so far. I mean, the defense is a huge reason for that, but he's more aggressive on offense. He's taking more mid-rangers. He's attacking more when bigs are backing up off of him. He's drawing more fouls. Like, Bam has been leading towards this year after year. The whole, like, okay, the initial DHO with Hero or Duncan Robinson or Jimmy or Caleb Martin or whoever, it didn't work. What's the next thing? And sometimes it would be Bam just kind of monitoring too much as opposed to just attacking, where I think now he's leaning more into it. Anyway, Jaime Jaquez has looked good so far for Miami. And, I mean, in college it was, post-ups and physical drives, head fakes, pump fakes in the paint, and turnaround jumpers. And I do think that Jaquez, while he has had his moments with that thing where it's like, in the Atlanta game, catch and drive off of, I think, a Jimmy skip, and then he's driving at Bogdanovich, and then he hits him with like a spin move, finish at the rim. In the Hornets game, he had like Ish Smith on a couple switches for turnaround jumpers, similar thing with LaMelo, like, catch and drive, jumper over him, that sort of stuff. But it's been some more threes, which obviously he's going to have to be able to make threes and all that. I like when Miami puts him in the dunker spot, or I guess it's a little farther away from the dunker spot, but it's like the mid-range area where he can cut or be in there for lobs. I think he's done a good job of just recognizing, oh, I'm open, let me cut or let me drive or whatever. And defensively, I mean, he's a big dude who pretty much knows what to do. So I think the Jaquez pick is looking really good for Miami so far. Highsmith is fighting like hell defensively, and the advanced stats would say, like, yeah, once he played more, that's when their very early part of the season kind of turned around. Jimmy is shooting more. Duncan Robinson's looking a little spicier again. Shout out Tyler Hero. Miami looks good. I'm scared of him as I always am. Now let's go to Philly. So first off, the Kelly Oubre situation, my goodness, all the best wishes to Oubre on that. Look, here's how I'm feeling with Philly. So obviously the connectivity on offense, there's more DHOs. The chemistry with Embiid and Maxey, very good on pick and rolls already. I mean, I talked about this when I did my like players are improving and Maxey was in their thing, but we've got that. We have like little flips when Tobias is bringing the ball up court to Maxey or the other way around, or Maxey's one pass away on Joel Embiid post-ups. Like the offense is clicking. I know that they have been a team that people bring up for, oh, could they trade for LaVine? And that one has me a little queasy because I just feel like defensively, LaVine and Maxey, that's not great. LaVine's better on the ball than he is as a team defender, even so, it's still not great. I think Tobias as a third option has been like pretty damn legit so far this season. Like, yeah, it's easy to say, well, they need OG Anunoby, because you could say that about almost anybody, but given what it would probably take to trade for him on top of what you then have to pay him, it gets a little iffy there. But look, they got the extra picks from the Clippers. We'll see what they do, if anything. Now we're going to go in a slightly different tone as we talk about the Pistons and the Jaden Ivey situation, where Ivey has played about 20 minutes a game on average this year coming off the bench. Now, he did play 29 minutes in their last game, which is maybe a sign of it's going to be different for Monty and the rotation and everything. But yeah, it's been weird so far. And I'm sure Monty would say, well, Killian's playing because of his defense and his assist to turnover stuff. And okay, like Killian definitely does things well. But we're thinking of Ivy as the star who could be next to Cade, the second ball handler. I mean, his catch and shoot numbers have been good, and obviously he's got the downhill juice and transition and, catch and go stuff playing with Cade in the half court. Like, that's what we would hope, and we just haven't really seen a whole lot of opportunity for it this year. And obviously Cade is dealing with defenses just being locked in on him like crazy because there's just not a lot of other guys that freak him out like that, even if we like a good amount of the young players on the Pistons, right? Including Asar, where I'm getting like some Sean Marion vibes from Asar, man. I mean, you talk about a wing who's this good as a rebounder, and then obviously the screen navigation, the steals, blocks, the on-ball defenses, all of it. And yes, we will see where the jump shot gets to, but offensively, I mean, I've said this before, like his energy, I feel like Asar is just going to force you to have to care about him on offense, right? Where between cutting and just finding ways around the dunker spot or attacking the glass or transition, like he's going to find a way to impact the game in all areas. But again, the jump shot matters. Now we go to the Knicks. I am about ready to write Mitchell Robinson's name in pen for Role Player All-Stars, as the guy has allowed the Knicks to be number one in offensive and defensive rebound percentage. And defensively, I mean, he's like looking the most mobile that he's ever looked. I thought their last was kind of cool where like they kept on trying to put Trae Young in pick and rolls, and Trae was doing a good job of like hedging and recovering to where Brunson couldn't get switched onto him. So then they switched to more like Emmanuel quickly ghost screening for Randall. They also had some cool like empty corner plays where like Brunson, Mitchell Robinson pick and roll, swing to Randall up top, lob to Robinson on the roll and stuff. I'm like, okay, some connectivity in the Knicks offense. I'm messing with it. And hopefully Randall has moved past his very concerning for a minute there start to the season with just missing tough shots and doing weird things on defense. Okay, now we get to the Bucks. I don't want to go too long on them because, I mean, I just did a whole video on them. They've won 3 games in a row. My general feelings on the Bucks are, I think Dame and Giannis are going to drag them through whatever problems they have. But when you look under the hood between Middleton managing his minutes, Adrian Griffin, who can hopefully just keep Brook dropping on screens, even if the perimeter defenders are still not as good as what it was. And then, I mean, I already said Alex Caruso would be the dream pickup for him, or just any sort of decent perimeter defenders who can just do something on offense. But also their defensive rebound percentage has been weaker, their transition defense has been weaker, and again, they got the top 2 guys who should be able to drag them through it, but this team is not perfect. And even then, we're still doing the whole Dame Giannis pick and roll conversation, how often, how good does it look, and all that stuff. Okay, now we go to Cleveland, who have had a bit of a weird start to the year. Garland, Allen, and Okoro have all missed some games. So depending on what games you've caught from them this year, it might have just been the super Donovan Mitchell show. I think this year is all about them maximizing what they can be on offense. And I say this as they were 9th in offensive rating last year, but we saw what happened in the playoffs. Because in round 1 against the Knicks, I mean, we saw it through not having enough shooters, being predictable on offense, and also we saw what Mitchell Robinson did to their front court. They just weren't ready. They get Max Strus, they get Niang, and I've already talked about this season how I like that they're featuring Strus in sets, screening on the ball for either one of the guards. They're putting him in DHOs with the bigs. Sometimes they're running just basic pick and rolls with him in the bigs, which I don't know about that one long term, but still, I like where their head's at with featuring Strus in the offense, not just putting him in the corner, even if he is a good shooter. And I do think, if you watch a Cleveland game when they've got their guys, like you're going to see Mobley and Allen running handoff actions with Garland and Mitchell. You're going to see the occasional time where like they double screen for either one of the guards. You'll see like, Mitchell will have a pick and roll on one wing, Garland will be on the opposite wing so he can swing it to him one pass away. And they'll do that the other way around as well. And LeVert finds his way into all of these types of sets in some ways as well. And then, of course, there's the ongoing Mobley thing where he's going to get his rolls and his lobs. And my favorite thing is still when Jared Allen or Mobley lob for each other, like off of a screen with one of the guards and the other guys in the other dunker spot, But for Mobley specifically, what's he at? 17 points on 58 true shooting right now. For whatever reason, there was a play that stuck out to me in their recent one against the Pistons in the fourth quarter where Isaiah Stewart was just backing up off of him, daring him to do something. He closed the distance. He put a shoulder into Isaiah Stewart. He had a bank shot, hook shot over him. I was like, that was cool. But even if I can say all of that, and I feel like it took me too long to get to this point, but it does feel like it still becomes a little too much of there's 7 seconds on the clock. Garland or Mitchell is just trying to figure something out at the top of the key or on the wing, and the initial action didn't work because the defense switched it or the screens weren't good enough or there wasn't enough urgency on the play or just whatever. They are also doing a little bit more in transition this year, so that's good. Now if we can go on to the Pacers, they've been one of the most fun teams in the league this season. Maybe the most fun team in the league, to be honest with you. I mean, like it's Halliburton pick and roll, but there's so much within that. But before I go into all that, like, yeah, Halliburton is on an ascent right now where, like, there's the assist to turnover king, and then there's whatever the hell he's doing, where the assist numbers are so insane, it's like we're starting to remind me of when I played my career way back in the day, and I'd be like, trying to grind playmaking badges. But he's also dropping 20 a game as well. You've got Turner popping. You also have Miles Turner doing a little bit more as like a catch and drive guy this season, like pump fakes, 1 or 2 dribbles, and then finishing or making the next play. Like it's you got plays where like Miles Turner will screen for Bruce Brown at the top of the key off the ball as Halliburton has the ball in the wing, and so Halliburton is hitting Bruce Brown like on the cut basically. Of course, Buddy Hield has been a master at making himself open in the flow of an offense for a while now. Like, I mean, him and Halliburton have had like the pick and pop game or like the ghosting screens game, whatever you want to call it. They've had that down for a minute, but you know, Hield will just have like little flips to whoever, and then he'll immediately run and get the handoff, and then he only needs like a daylight of space, you know. Neesmith is making his threes, which that makes me happy as a Celtics fan. To talk about Mathurin, I think the flashes with him are still really encouraging. Like these times where you see him working off of screens, and whether it's, I mean, he was doing this the second he showed up in the NBA, just being kind of a battering ram, going to the rim, or little plays out of the corner for him. Like it's a matter of, can he consistently make the reads in the open floor, getting downhill? Will the shots simply fall enough? Like, will some of his contested threes drop? Like, these are all basic things, but that's just kind of where we're at with Mathurin. And honestly, I think the signs are all there that he can be a big-time scorer in time. It's just we're in year 2. And Jarris Walker just hasn't really played much. We will see when Carlisle gets Jarris Walker in there more, because this team is definitely much better on offense than they are defensively so far. And, I mean, we get it with Jarris. It's the switchability, it's the help defense, it's all that. He was showing it off in Summer League. Now we go on to the Magic, who are second in defensive rating, and that's with Wendell Carter not playing every game. And sure, not every single one of their games have been a defensive masterclass. Like, you know, they had a rough one against Dallas recently and stuff. But when you look at the way that they can just overwhelm teams sometimes, I do think it suggests this defense will be good throughout the season. And I was just looking at some of their forced turnovers recently. Like against the Bulls, you've got like Mo Wagner dropping on, it was either Levine or DeRozan, I don't remember who. And he's like kind of at the free throw line, and then they have like Paulo or Isaac collapsing behind him, and it's just like, they're just freaking huge, man. You've got like Mo Wagner holding up on Vooch in the post, and then Gary Harris comes over and they double him and he steals it, we're going the other way. In the Bucks game, there's a play where like Mo Wagner is dropping back on a Giannis Bobby Portis pick and roll, and then it kind of becomes a switch, and then Jonathan Isaac switches onto Portis and steals this like very high pass from Giannis, and then we're going the other way. Anthony Black's doing a good job of getting into passing lanes. Paulo is helping from the corner well. They do just pull off some overwhelming physical stuff on defense sometimes. Shout out to Goga, who is also huge. As for the offense, I mean, Paulo and Franz have not set the world on fire so far. They need more shooting. Markelle has missed about half the season so far. Now we go to the Hornets, and I feel like I'm stealing this one because Zach Lowe just talked about this on his podcast, but in my defense, this is something that I've talked about with LaMelo in the past as well. The hope that he can do more at the rim. I think LaMelo has made a bit of an effort this year to get a little closer to the rim, where he's taking an extra dribble or two coming around screens, perhaps even inviting some contact around screens, getting the defender on his back a little bit, to where he's not immediately going to what at times were these very deep, like floaters, pull-ups, whatever. He is inviting more contact at the rim. And to be clear, it's not like he's suddenly Jimmy Butler attacking the basket, but, you know, this year he's averaging 5.5 shots a game in the restricted area. Last year, that was a little over 4. Shots in the paint, but not right at the rim. Those are up a little bit as well. His free throws are up. He'll also do the thing where he kind of dribbles underneath the basket and keeps the dribble alive and just sort of surveys the next thing, which can sometimes lead to like him taking this little shot like on the border of the paint. It's a step in the right direction for LaMelo. And he's also had improvements to his actual finishing numbers. It's still not really where you want it to be, but again, it's progress there. And obviously LaMelo's very good overall, but now we go to the Nets. Nick Claxton has played 4 games. He, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Thomas have played 5 minutes together. Cam Johnson just came back. Cam Thomas is now out. Ben is out with a back thing. I think I'm just going to go big picture here on the Nets. Like, I like the team. Claxton was one of my guys to watch for this year because of his improvements with like his push shot in the paint and 1 or 2 dribble things after he screens, and obviously switchability, rim protection, the whole thing. I think the Nets are in a good spot when we're looking at just where it could go long term because of all the assets they got in the KD and the Kyrie trades and stuff. As far as this team specifically, they might win like 39 games. Unless Cam Thomas just averages 30 a game for the whole season, which, hey, you know what? You could tell me anything happens with Cam Thomas and I might believe you at this point. Now let's go to Atlanta. So I've already talked about Jalen Johnson in videos. Love his connectivity on offense, screening on the ball, his effort defensively and help, although we're going to talk about the Hawks defense in a second. Transition, catch and goes, all this stuff. Love what Jalen Johnson does for him. Connective passing, all of it. I will say that you can just look at some stats, and it backs up the eye test to me, where you watch them defensively. They're having Capella and Okongwu play higher up on screens than they did last year, right? And you look at like corner three-pointers allowed. They're allowing the most opponent corner three-point attempts in the league. Now, opponents are shooting 34%, so they're not getting super torched on them, at least so far. Early in the season, a couple of games can sway that stuff, but that combined with the fact that they are allowing like the second most shots in the league in the restricted area as well, it's just like, I don't know if that's sustainable long-term, and even then they're like 20-something in defense, because obviously when you have your bigs higher up on screens, you have to have more rotations behind it, aka guys coming from the corner, which can then lead to, shots at the rim if the help isn't there enough, or shots in the corner if the timing's off, the whole thing, right? And a lot of time it's like Jalen Johnson helping on those, or Sadiq Bey or DeAndre Hunter or whatever, and we'll just see. I don't know if Quinn Snyder's going to want to calm it down a little bit as the year goes. Yes, there is the Trey efficiency thing. It's just they're sixth in offense even with that, so part of me's like I know it's not good that Trey's efficiency is rough, but also they're getting through it anyway. I don't know. Shout out to DeJounte. Okay, now let's get to the Bulls. So if you're going to take on LaVine, I feel like you need to have the playmaking, defense, and you have to have someone on your team who's clearly going to take more shots than LaVine. And also you got to take into account his contract, and he's had some knee stuff over the past couple of years. And it suddenly gets a little tougher than you might think for a dude who's averaged 20-something points on good efficiency for a few years now. And obviously LaVine's shot selection can sometimes be a little not great. And his defense, he's better on the ball than he is as a team defender. I think Miami is one of the few teams who does have the defense and the guys who would not cause LaVine to run the whole offense. But I just don't think Miami wants to trade for Zach LaVine. Of course, I'm just a guy, so what do I know? But that's just my guess with them. I've already said I don't really love him for Philly. I've seen people bring up Orlando a little bit. I don't really love him on the Magic either, because I feel like it's just taking a little too much away from Paolo and Franz, and it just feels like too much too soon. There you go. You know what I would be doing if I was a Bulls fan? I would be praying that the Pistons make a panic move and give us Jaden Ivey. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I was a Bulls fan, that would be the number one thing I'd be hoping for right now. Could the Lakers trade for LaVine? I don't know, man. Now we go to the Raptors, and I already said very nice things about Scotty in my players taken off video or whatever that was. His jumper has been a little worse lately. We'll see, but obviously I like just the different ways they're using him, screening him for him on the ball, putting him in off-ball actions, and some cool high-low stuff they do with him and Siakam for either one of them in the post and stuff. Anyway, the Raptors are in the unique spot right now where they're certainly trying more things on offense. Everything I just said on top of using Pirtle as a hub for, DHOs or guys cutting around him. They're trying things. They're having Schroeder screen for guys, go screen for guys. But defenses are just kind of not cooperating, and they're switching, they're going under, they're daring them to shoot. And two stats that kind of sum it up for Toronto is they're second in the league in passes per game, and yet they're 27th in three-point percentage. Grady has not shot well from three so far. I would hope that we're not concerned about that. Sometimes I think I'm too not concerned about things that start weird, but I'm really not concerned with Grady Dick's three-point shooting. Will we see millions of trade rumors around OG and Siakam at the deadline? I don't know. We still have a ways to go this season. And now to close this out, we go to the Wizards, and for the sake of being nice, we're mostly just going to talk about Koulibaly, where I do think the early results have been pretty good. I think defensively he's showing all the length and athleticism that made people excited about him coming into the draft. And then offensively, when he's getting his opportunities to take open catch and shoots, even if his release is a little slow, the results have been good. Attacking off the catch, it's been fine as well. He does spend a lot of time just kind of existing among the Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma show. But I think so far you got to be pretty happy with Koulibaly if you're a Wizards fan.